was your undergrad degree?
I graduated from the University of Michigan
Okay.
in 2012. I majored in sport management,
Okay.
got a minor in business, and then I got my master's degree 2 years later, Liberty University in sport administration.
Okay. What were, if any stand out, what were some of the most helpful courses you remember taking in college? Any that stand out at?
Yeah, I took a business writing course my sophomore year. It was a
Okay.
course where we got to sit down and kind of learn how to properly format emails. We worked on our resumes and cover letters, things like that. We actually had to, like, mock interviews, things like that. That's the one that stands out. There's a couple that I didn't do great in, that I just had to, like, survive. Like,
Yeah.
I remember my stats class, really, really difficult. Wasn't my forte. Did everything I could to get a B minus.
Okay.
But I took a lot just from, you know, the amount of time and effort I had to put in that class.
Okay. Asked you if you went to grad school, and what'd you say you studied there?
Yeah, no. So as soon as I finished up at Michigan, I started working full time with the baseball program there
Okay.
in an assistant ops role, and then so it made sense for me to do an online degree, and I knew I wanted to get my master's, so I knocked that out in about a year and a half through Liberty University online, and it was sport administration.
Okay. So you said you worked with a baseball team right after you graduated. Did you do any other internships while in college?
I did. So I was a recruited walk-on of sorts. Didn't pan out.
Okay.
Thought maybe coaching. I was in sport management. It was my dream to be a general manager of the Yankees, something crazy like that.
Okay.
So I transitioned into more of like a student coach, and then became a student manager. So pretty much my 4 years at Michigan, I was a student manager, so that was my job during school.
Okay.
I had another internship my first summer with an independent baseball team, and then I had another internship with a AAA team, sports agencies, where they represented football players and some basketball players. So pretty much every summer I was working an internship or a job.
Okay. Yeah. So you did those internships, and what were you able to gain from those? And do you say that they really helped you kind of pave your path to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like that first internship I mentioned with the independent baseball team, kind of small, it was unpaid, of course, but when you work at that lower level like that, everyone kind of does everything. So I was an operations intern, but I didn't just operate, right? I got there early, and some mornings were different. I was sweeping the concourse, or I was working in concessions prepping food, or I was in the ticket office selling tickets, or in the merchandise sales, during the game, or I did some production work. So I pretty much got to, stick my toes in the water in all those different departments and kind of figure out where, I was going to land. Obviously you graduate college and your first job isn't the general manager. You're not, you're not the boss day one. So you have to start somewhere, and so that was really cool, just to be able to see the different areas and kind of where I might start. And then obviously working through, I worked at that level. I worked at AA, AAA, while all along working in college baseball. And through those 4 years of college and those internships and experiences, I found my calling, I'll say, in college baseball. I just fell in love with college baseball and the players.
All right, so you said you worked at a bunch of different levels and everything. How were you able to gain connections, and how important were they in those?
Well, this industry, that they always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That rings true in a lot of areas, but in everything I did, I always gave it 100%. I thought that was important. I didn't think of that job or that internship as a stepping stone. I gave it everything I had, because you don't know who you're going to impress and run into that might give you your next job. My job here, I was lucky enough, obviously I feel like I was qualified. I think there's a lot of people that are qualified, but the reason I got the job, the coach at Michigan was able to make a phone call on my behalf.
Okay.
Now I still had to come and interview and
Right.
and do everything like that, but yeah, I probably don't get that interview without that phone call. So relationships in this business are the most
Right.
important thing.
Okay, so outside of baseball, were there any other paths you were thinking of going?
Yeah, I mean, baseball was always my number one. I played it, and I knew I wanted to work in it. I thought, but like I said, I did an internship with a sports agency. I thought it could be Jerry Maguire, something like that,
Mhm.
sports agent. I had one of the classes I remember I took a lot from was like an intro to sport management class, and we talked about sports agencies. And he did a breakdown of the financials of that business, and you could see like the Borises and Rosen, all those guys that they make 99% of the money, and then there's like 3, 4, 5 names, and then there's hundreds of guys that maybe have one client and they're just scraping by.
Yeah.
So I thought about that. That didn't happen. I liked writing. I thought journalism, like sports journalism.
Okay. Okay, so other than this one, specifically in like baseball operations, did you have any other jobs prior to this one?
No, I've been pretty lucky. I had internships where it wasn't necessarily operations,
Mhm.
but as soon as even my senior year, I knew because they offered me the job during that season, coming in and working as assistant ops. So did that for 2 seasons full time, while finishing my master's.
Okay.
And then came here, my current job in 2014. I've been here 5 years.
Okay. So was this a target place for you, or did it just end up working out?
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember, during that season, my second season, I knew the full-time ops guy at Michigan. He's one of my mentors. He wasn't going anywhere. I didn't want him to go anywhere. And I knew I'd kind of reached my potential and given that team everything I could for 6 years. And they wanted me to kind of spread my wings too. They knew I had some potential. But so when I first started looking this job, I saw it posted, and this is a year off this team going to Omaha,
Yeah.
ACC, best conferences in baseball. I just did, it was a pipe dream. I applied for it, of course, because kind of what I was looking to hopefully do, but didn't certainly think I was going to have a chance. I applied for a bunch of other jobs. The ECU job was open at the time, and
Yeah.
the head coach at Michigan, he played with him. I thought that was more realistic,
Okay.
being a non-Power 5. But, it just kind of fell in my lap. I don't know, I'd be happy to retire in this job. Honestly, that's the way I look at every job.
Okay.
And show up every day, give it 100%. And like you said, if other opportunities arise, that's great. But that's not what I'm looking for.
Okay. What would you say, what are some personal characteristics you think are important to succeed in this line of work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a work ethic. It's a lot of hours. I've been here since 8 this morning, and I probably won't go home until near midnight.
Okay.
And during the season, it's 7 days a week. 10, 12-hour days. So you can't be scared of that. Certainly, got to be incredibly organized. In my role, doing what I do, if overlooking one thing can be catastrophic. So that and communication, you got to be able to communicate. I work hand in hand with a lot of different people. Whether it's Jenny in academics or Gabe in strength and conditioning, Scott in sports medicine, all of our coaches, marketing. So got to be able to communicate effectively.
Okay. All right, that'll kind of take me to my next question. What's the average, we'll say game day, what's the average game day look like for you?
Yeah, you can't just sit there and focus on one game day, because all the other stuff's going to start catching up on you. So, like, as we sit here today, I got here at 8. I was focused on, making sure everything was great for today and everything was in order. But as soon as that was done, I needed to look at, tomorrow we go to Greensboro, and in about 10 days, 12 days, we're going to Boston.
Right.
And all that stuff just doesn't fall into place, and I'm constantly coordinating and communicating with those folks and making sure we're ready to roll. So, you know, really, I only spend the first part of my morning, you know, kind of making sure everything's set there. Then I start focusing on, you know, this week or, you know, this weekend or the next weekend to make sure I'm ready to roll. Then, you know, working with the coaches and staff, making sure they have what they need as far as videos concerned, scouting reports, and then, you know, for a 6 o'clock game, making sure food's here on time at 2 o'clock, and, you know, visiting team, coordinating with them, knowing when they're going to arrive, and getting their pass list and making sure tickets are set for not only our players but their players, our staff. Like today, we had a special guest, you know, former Governor Hunt, so spent a lot of time with him. You know, during the game, I'm going through, you know, through the stadium, shaking hands, making sure I hit the important people, the big alumni and boosters that can help us grow our program. So it's a lot of different things. It's different every day, which is neat. Keeps me on my toes.
Okay. So you talked about that planning and preparation. Like how important is that in this job, and how did you? Is it something that you've always been good at, or is it something you just had to get used to doing?
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm still learning. I can still get better. But yeah, you know, in 5 years, I've kind of learned in my own system. You know, and I've got a lot of great help here. You know, our administrative assistant Haley, she's amazing, and she helps me plan a lot of it. I've got, all of our other staff members too. But it's just honestly, it's just communicating, and then just double checking and triple checking.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you have your different softwares and things that you use to certainly help you out. We use one here called Teamworks, and I'm able to load up, you know, our itineraries and rooming lists and different things like that, and that really makes my job a whole lot easier.
How much of this job, I know you have a big sports staff here, but how much of this job is kind of on your own and making sure that you're on top of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, you know, as a staff, we work so close and we're constantly communicating, but, you know, we all have our different roles and responsibilities, and we all, you know, kind of self-manage ourselves on that, especially my role. You know, obviously, at the end of the day, approval's got to go to the boss, and Coach Avon's got to put the rubber stamp on it. But I'd say, you know, at least half my job is individualized, and I'm kind of doing it on my own, and then the other half is kind of a group effort.
Okay. So you said you've been in this job for a few years now. Have you noticed any changes over the years?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, personnel's remained the same. We've had some small changes, but just in the landscape of college baseball, it's growing. The popularity of it's growing. When I first started, you know, I started at Big Ten. You know, we were lucky to have a handful of games on TV. Now here, all of our games are on TV, which is really, really neat.
Yeah.
You know, as a program, you know, we've grown and we've done some different things facility-wise to improve our setup here. But I think you always have to be constantly changing and adapting, because if you're staying the same, you're going to get passed up. So I like to say, you know, I'm learning something new every day. Our staff's learning something new every day. We're trying new things. The industry certainly changed. There's been, you know, with the NCAA, they're always changing rules, and we've got to keep up with those and make sure we're being compliant. But yeah, it's ever changing.
All right. So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you face in this job?
Biggest challenges, you know, as working in this industry, you know, you're judged by a lot of times as wins and losses, which stinks. Because there's so much more that goes into what we do as a college baseball staff. You know, we're molding young men. You know, you guys are also students, and we're making sure that you're fulfilling that role and what you guys do in the community and things like that. So just because we lose a game doesn't mean that we're failing, but sometimes in the eyes of administrators and fans, that's what it looks. That's how they take it, perceive it. So that's difficult. That's hard because I know the guys that I work with, and I know that we're in it for the right reasons. We have good intentions. Thankfully we've been successful and we've won, but those times where we have lost, I think sometimes you get unfairly judged as being whatever, unsuccessful. And I think even if you lose, as long as those other things you're doing right, like you said, you're following the rules with NCAA, you're being a good role model to your players, and you're making sure that they're good citizens, so that when they leave here, if baseball doesn't work out, that they can be good professionals in business, they can be good dads, sons, brothers, all that stuff.
All right, now I'll go to the other side. What do you enjoy most about this job?
Yes, it's the relationships. I've been blessed now, going on almost a decade in college baseball. There's guys when I first started that I met as a 15, 16-year-old recruit that they've gone to college. They've pursued a degree. They've been drafted. They've gotten their degrees. They're playing professional baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the players. It's the people I work with. It's the player parents, the other people on campus that I work alongside with. So all the relationships, and obviously too the memories. The travel I still enjoy, even though it's exhausting, keeps me busy. But at the top of the list is the relationships I build.
Okay. Last two questions here. How important is the use of technology?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit. We use a lot of different software here. I talked about in my role as operations. I use Teamworks a lot for team communications and coordinating travel and things like that. But as a coaching staff, we're using Synergy Sports. We use RightView Pro, for scouting and player development. Then obviously too, a lot of our work in communicating is done now through our phones and computers and with email and text, all that stuff. It's integral. It's part of what we do. We couldn't do our jobs without it. So it's a big part of it, for sure.
All right, and last one. What advice would you give to someone entering this field?
Well, yeah, I think it's networking. Shake a lot of hands. Gain a lot of experiences. Meet a lot of people. Then obviously too, just don't shy away from hours and hard work. But it's all about the relationships and networking and getting your foot in the door and then just going to work.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.